And good afternoon, Facebook family. Third time's a charm. This is actually my third time attempting to deliver this live download. And I believe it's all in perfect alignment. It's had me refine the message, is the way I have it. The universe is having me sharpen the message. In the meantime, we have an absolutely beautiful day here in Laguna. And I'm going to pray, because I'm getting a low network connection, so I'm going to pray that this is working, hopefully. If not, then this download will become a literal upload. So I'm going to give this just a moment. See if folks will join us here. Low network connection. We'll see what happens here. So today, actually I shot this earlier today, and I was, if you'll go to my stories here on Facebook, you will see some really cool footage of downtown San Clemente, which is where I was at this morning, and which actually gave birth to this idea of your congruency and using it as your currency. I'm going to talk about in your business, if you're in the coaching industry, if you're in expertise industry, where you're selling information, transformation, those types of things. This will be a very, very valuable live for you. If you are not in those areas, you'll still find this very, very valuable, because I've discovered a way that this applies both to not only business, but also your personal relationships, even intimate relationships. Congruency as a currency. And especially, in the online space, the online world, which is, of course, that's where I've been making my living and supporting people and designing and doing marketing. So I really want to dive deep into this because I've done it twice now. Those lives didn't work, so this one I get to go deep into, but I believe in a much more concise manner. So congruency. Everyone would love to believe that they are congruent. And in the online space where people are speaking their truth, we hear this a lot, being in their highest self. I believe in all of these concepts, believe me. I also believe they leave open a certain amount of interpretation, which makes it really hard to measure the type of meaning that you're actually experiencing and creating in the world. In a lot of ways, we use sales as a way of measuring how well the messaging is doing. And I believe that is, certainly an indication, and certainly a part that you are providing value in the world. You're making offers of perceived value that people actually are wanting to pay you in order to relieve the pain and to invite the possibility that they're missing in their lives. I believe that, if you are here and working through transformation and doing transformative work or wanting to, this is really at the core, aspect of those businesses. It's a metric, right? And at the same time, what I've noticed, and I was working with a really close friend of mine this morning, and really didn't realize until, I'm in the midst of it, that, we're really talking about her expressing her more genuine self that's being birthed right now. Because I believe we're all going through, we're all evolving. And when we're doing influencer marketing, which is really kind of also what we're talking about here, it's what is your unique perspective, what is your unique angle, what is your unique story. We hear a lot of those. And what I've discovered is that when you can just be congruent with who you are off camera, with who you might be on, that frees up a lot of energy. And many people that know me, that if you talk to them, they'll say, Tony's pretty much like he is on camera, like he is in real life. And I'm either really, really deep or ridiculously funny, one or the other, it seems. And of course, spending time like I do with myself, I get to see the in the middle, right? And, believe me, I'm deep. In a lot of different aspects. Sometimes I can take myself a little too seriously, which is why I probably also enjoy diving into the humor side of this as well, of life. However, when you are as congruent, offline as you are online, that creates a certain level of currency. And it's a currency that your audience will hold very, very dearly. This is why I believe I first heard Gary Vaynerchuk talking about social currency, and I believe that congruency is the currency that creates social equity. I believe it's one aspect of it, if anything, right? Because a lot of what I've experienced in working with coaches and entrepreneurs that are using personality style type of marketing, it's not that they are meaningfully being incongruent, but there's just a lot of aspects in these days and times, as I believe we do a lot of edutainment in this space. We are educating and entertaining at the same time. And, certainly there's going to be some role play in some of that. There's going to be a lot of fun that can be had with that. And at the same time, if you love creating content, speaking into your message, if you love speaking into that particular conversation that is a deep curiosity of yours, like many of what I talk about are deep curiosities of mine, there's a lot of genuine energy that comes from that. And you're more inspired to continue to invest your energies and your intellect into that aspect of your business. And it creates a very, very valuable currency. That currency has a lot of weight. It creates a lot of social currency as to where people can relate with you. And it also makes life simpler in a lot of ways. Now, I say all of that to say this, that there is a process, a way of being more predictable about how you are creating profits, revenue, and margin in your business. And all of those three things are different things. There is a methodology to that congruency online. There is a methodology of that. And, when you really think about, how we work as human beings, both our bodies and our minds. And notice I did the opposite. I pointed at my body to my mind. But when you notice when you are, the language of the brain, as Joe Dispenza would say, are your thoughts, and the language of your body is your feelings. And when those two are congruent, you have what's called a state of mind. And I believe those two, when they're in balance and not taking yourself so seriously in some cases, like I can, it allows me to be within that balance. And it allows me to be congruent. I've made a practice, like some of my really close friends, they ask me, how are you doing? If I'm not freaking peachy freaking king, I may not say I'm peachy freaking king. I'd probably just be honest. Say, yeah, I'm feeling this right now. And I'm around, conscious, loving individuals that are okay to not try to fix me. They go, wow, I really appreciate you honoring what you're feeling, right? And I can be congruent, and I'm not suppressing, and therefore feeling depressing, right? And sometimes, if I'm in really, really case, I won't answer the phone, or I won't, take the message, or whatever the case may be. But I am practicing this, primarily, in my personal life, and as well as it can't help but to bleed over into the business. And again, by all means, this is just one perspective because of myself leaning more into the live aspect of my business and being able to have the energy and being capable and willing to speak into these messages, to speak into these ideas and share them in the world right now. It feels good. It feels as if something I am called to do, and I have definitely looked forward to this particular time to be able to do so. And will it create a certain level of currency in the marketplace? I'm sure. Or does it hold certain currency of which it will build social equity? I'm sure. And I say this because, I have as of recently become more congruent in creating a more compelling future and making that the focus and realizing, am I living as such in this particular moment? Because the future is created in the now, as my friend Yvonne de la Flor would say. And I really, really appreciate that. I can honor my feelings. I can honor my experiences. And at the same time realize that the future I'm creating is in the now. And this is, a defining particular time in my life. It's a defining particular time in your life as to if you choose to be congruent with your thoughts, with your feelings. What will happen when you do is it just creates more meaningful relationships in your life. It will, as I say, time will always expose or promote everyone's intentions. I was telling my friend this morning the difference between, I think Dave Lacani said this, was that the difference between manipulation and persuasion is intent. What is your agenda? My agenda for you today is to definitely, take these ideas and this particular idea and contemplate and consider the areas that you feel really congruent in, because it's the areas where there's incongruency, where I might be saying something other than what I'm feeling. It's not necessarily healthy. It's like holding down beach balls underwater. You might be able to do one, but if you get 3 or 4 of them, it's really, really hard. And that's where shadow likes to live. And so if you don't want to live in the shadow of shame, then you want to shine a light on that, so that you can keep your focus on the compelling future, and keep your mind and your body in the now, actually creating it. And this is where congruency, both in business, but also more importantly within intimate relationships. And I think more importantly out of either one of those is the congruency that you have with communication with yourself. Like, how honest with yourself are you being? And not having any judgment around that, but just being honest. If you want to be, I thought of like, really out there kind of idea, but it has you begin to, hello, Marianne. Hi, nice to see you. This might be a shocking kind of perspective or idea, but it certainly raised the question in my mind. Congruency is the relationship, for an example, that you're calling in if you're single, is watching porn every day in congruence with creating that quality of relationship that you're looking for or calling in. I don't have the answer for that, by the way. Only you have that answer. I don't know. I know for what I'm calling in, I know what the answer is. But it's one of those things where if you ask yourself that question, if it's incongruent with the quality of lifestyle and relationship that you're calling in, then perhaps look at that behavior, right? Because that behavior may or may not be congruent with the quality of the relationship that you're calling in. And again, it's not without judgment. There's probably going to be some, but that also, the more that judgment triggers you, the more you deny it, the more, rather than being just informed around the thought, it might be a good idea to investigate it if you are triggered by it. And I believe that is in fact true when we are looking, you and I, at our at how congruent we are, maybe in our finances and our fitness and our connection to God and Source, and of course also into our family or relationships. It's just a really great way to, in other words, investigate, are we on the escalator leading into the quality of life that we're craving, and calling in and realizing that congruency, both showing up, even just if it's in expressing your story in your business, right? And expressing it in a way that it's not only meaningful to you, but it's also just as, if not more, meaningful to your audience, the ideal men or women that you are speaking to and want to serve and support with your offering, right? Because believe me, when it gets down to the end of the story here also, when we talk about in business, when we're talking about being congruent, it also has a lot to do with what's the offering. What are you offering? If people aren't if you're making offers and people aren't, giving you money and they're giving you more excuses, then there's a reason why. Yes, there could be some incongruence, but there also can be some incongruence in the offering between both you and your prospect. Our vibration has to be in congruence with what are a match for. Yeah, Marianne, I hear what you're saying there. Vibration is an interesting word. I like that word. I know precisely what you're speaking into. And, I like to figure out, well, what is that vibration? That vibration is probably the marrying and the meeting of both our thoughts and our feelings, right? Because where those two come together, that's our state of mind. And I truly believe that learning can be gauged by behavior change. If there's no behavior change, then no real learning has actually occurred, only the accumulation of information and maybe the understanding of some knowledge, right? And so if, in fact, I only intellectually understand and express what I intellectually have integrated, well, that's one thing. But congruence is my behavior in actually what I demonstrate. I don't have to ask people what they value. I can just look at what their life demonstrates, right? And in a world that's very, very savvy online today, that are used to, seeing these things, they can see what is incongruent. They can perceive what's incongruent. And so therefore it minimizes your currency in the marketplace. And the same thing can be true for you in an intimate relationship where, you are being more passive than you are necessarily speaking into the truth. And even if you've taken ownership of your feelings and taking ownership of your experience, if something needs to be spoken to, so be it, speak into it. And I have a lot more thought around that when we dive into relationship development, both intimacy for relationships. There's a whole nother set of thought that I have around that and beliefs. But I do believe that there's a very much a crossover, a marrying of, being congruent. And when you're congruent with your thoughts, your feelings, your beliefs, your compelling vision that you are seeing yourself stepping into, then a lot of other things, like that's where you find ease. That's where I believe you find flow. For me, I like the idea, and I mentioned this in yesterday's, I like the idea of getting paid to be me, right? What does that mean? It means, me providing enough value in the most congruent manner possible and solving problems for important people in my life and receiving a fair exchange in currency, both emotionally, energetically, and of course, financially. For just being myself, for showing up and using my unique abilities. What I really do is I follow my curiosities, as Jason Silva pointed out when he discovered, going after your passions. If you just follow your passion and the money will appear, and I think that's kind of bullshit. Matter of fact, I know it is, because I've come across a lot of people that I've supported that have been following their passions for a long time, and it's never led to any type of profit that they can sustain their own lives on. Very, very few people have really been able to do that. But there are a lot out there, and there's a lot more emerging right now, which is really, really exciting, because you'll see a lot of them actually applying this congruency, factor in their personal lives. And it doesn't mean you can't have fun with it. Doesn't mean that you can't, talk about poop and unicorns and rainbows and whatever else it is gets you excited, like my client and good friend. It's seriously, it's a lot of fun when you can begin to really fully express those sides of yourself, those aspects of yourself. Because make no bones about it, today in the online world, certainly the influencer market, and getting paid to be you is a pretty exciting idea. Just knowing that you can just show up, and to me, again, I just believe that showing up as being as congruent as possible, and it doesn't mean that you need to show share all of your life, all your personal complexities and, your private life. That's not even necessarily true either. Just means that, who I see in front of the camera could be, one aspect of who that person is when they're not on camera. And you'll find that that's, very true for a lot of people. But when there's an incongruency between who you see in the camera and who you experience outside of that, well, then that's where, you can tell that there's some challenges. There's a lot of extra energy expenditure, so to speak. But this works great when it comes to family relationships, when it comes to, when it comes to business relationships, when it comes to an intimate relationship, in a lot of ways, just how congruent, how honest, how truthful can I be with myself? Because the sooner I am, the more of the shadow and the shame and the silliness of, certain identities that don't serve me, that don't support me in having helpful thoughts can fall away. Let that stuff fall away, and be more fun and free and on fire, as I shared with my good friend this morning. So hopefully this gives you some insight, gives you some idea. This is especially applicable if you're running a business online, and if you find yourself, doing content, creating a lot of conversation, but yet not, either receiving the quality of clients or people that are already prepared to invest, people that you inspire. If that's not happening, maybe you and I should have a conversation. I truly believe that it's an offer problem, right? It's a messaging problem. That's really what it comes down to. But being able to fully express yourself, both either through video or through written word, but doing that in a congruent fashion where it actually also speaks to what's important to your prospects and speaks important messages and meaningful message to the people that you most want to serve and who are ready to be served and ready to feel the relief of whatever satisfaction you bring to the table for them, and help them to get what it is that they're calling in. So if that's a place where you find yourself not finding a lot of ease, then maybe you and I should have a conversation. But ultimately, I can tell you this works really, really phenomenal, just even within the relationship within yourself. It has you making wiser choices, different choices. And and feeling more free, right? And applying that with a unit of measurement, like in sales, for an example. The same thing could be true if you apply this to your fitness. Maybe it could be pounds lost. Maybe it could be, extra mile you can walk. Some form of measurement. If it's with your spouse, maybe it's like, how many more times you receive your love language from them, right? Or how many more times you can provide their love language to them, even in moments where they're being difficult, maybe, right? There's a lot of ways to measure your congruency currency, I like to say. And it's just really nothing more than indication. But ultimately, I believe one of the biggest ways is your own personal satisfaction that you're experiencing every day. Your levels of satisfaction despite the problems that pop up. When you've got that compelling future, you see the problems as on your way, not in your way. As Dr. John DeMartini would say, I love that idea because it's very, very true, because the little shit is not such a big mountain when it's set aside, compared to your compelling future, your compelling vision that you see yourself walking into. And if we can do that in the most congruent fashion possible, both within our thoughts and our minds working together to work towards a compelling future, something that we're very, very clear on, then we can eliminate and allow to fall away a lot of the emotional memory that has been stuck there, that has continued to compel our old behaviors. And hopefully this has been something that's been helpful. I know this is the stuff I love to geek out on. I love to go deep on. And I'm also in the process of really deeply simplifying this, and just supporting, both my experts, my coaches, the people that that really love to do this work together. They're not lost, they're learning, and they're leading into higher levels of leadership. Those are the types of individuals that I love to work with, to collaborate with, to have these types of, deep communications around. And so if that happens to be you, I'd love to have a conversation with you, by all means. And if you're not in that space, I love that you take these ideas, that you just contemplate on them, see where they might be able to be digestible and implementable, if that's a word. I just created it. If so, then certainly love to hear about your success. I've actually had several people that have reached out to me after watching some of these lives and taken the ideas and implemented them in ways that I hadn't even considered could be applicable, and how life-changing in many ways they had experienced because of these ideas. Even though they might not have been a coach or an expert in those world, they've still found amazing value, so that, as Sadhguru said, the world isn't happening to you, it's happening within you. And if that's the case, you get to assign meaning. As my good friend Travis Sago would say, we get to assign meaning to that. It doesn't mean that I dismiss my feelings. I want my feelings I want to be mindful of my feelings. I just don't want to give them the ability to dictate the trajectory of where I'm going. And so when you see somebody like a Genie Martin Sago pop on, you bow and you say, thank you for being here, my friend. As I was just closing out the Facebook Live. But Genie Martin Sago, great influence, great coach. And matter of fact, there'll be a book that's going to be birthed. I just made it slightly public. Shh. But yeah, now it's out there, so it has to happen, right? The intention is there. And so that we're congruent behind the scenes, we see that it happens, right? So by all means, I hope this has been supportive. I hope it's been definitely helpful to you. I love sharing this type of content with you. If it's supportive, if it helps you, if it gives you any insight, please post below. I'd love to hear your feedback, where you can also message me privately. If you, again, fall in that realm of looking to create a more meaningful message that maximizes your margins, right? I did not have that pre-planned. That just downloaded right now, by the way. If you'd love to have that type of experience, and I'd love to have a conversation with you and see how we can create magic together and make those margins happen by creating meaningful messages. So with that, I hope that you have enjoyed this conversation. It is a beautiful day. I'm probably going to go to the beach again. I was already in San Clemente. Yes, ooh, I did tell, honey. Let me tell you, I did. It is out. And I'm actually looking really forward to that, because it allows me to shed light on some of those amazing ideas that you have, that I have incorporated, that I'm using as of right now to change and improve the quality of my congruence in my personal life and who I'm actually, being in the world. So I want to thank you publicly, and I look forward to supporting you with that message. So anyway, ladies and gentlemen, Have a fantastic day. This is Tony Teegarden, going to the beach, going to get more sun. So the next time you see me, I might be even more red. But with that, I hope you have an incredible weekend. I look forward to chatting with you. Be sure you reach out. Make sure you comment below or even share this with somebody just to show them how weird I can be. Other than that, I hope you have a great day. I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.